Would you dare to fast for 23 hours a day in exchange for a body that functions more efficiently? It may sound extreme, but the science behind OMAD, one meal a day, is deeply familiar to human biology. This is not a short-term weight loss trend, but a pattern of eating our bodies evolved with over millions of years. Our ancestors did not eat 3 meals a day. They ate when they caught food and fasted when they didn't. In that state of infrequent eating, the human body learned to use energy intelligently, flexibly, and efficiently. The problem began when a body designed to fast was forced to eat continuously throughout the day, keeping insulin constantly elevated and trapping the body in storage mode instead of fat-burning mode. OMAD is not about testing willpower. It exists to create the biological rest periods your hormones need, allowing insulin to fall and the body to return to using fat as fuel. It's not that you lack energy, you simply haven't given your body enough time to switch into fat-burning mode. In this video, we'll break down exactly what happens inside your body when you eat 1 meal a day, from hormones and energy to the benefits and risks you need to understand before trying it. If you want to understand your body through clear, practical science without exaggeration, like this video and subscribe to the channel to join us for more content ahead. To truly understand OMAD, we need to clarify one key point from the start. OMAD is not about eating less, but about eating in a different biological structure. OMAD stands for 1 meal a day. It means consuming all your daily calories, protein, and nutrients in one single meal, followed by a long fasting window, usually around 23 hours. It may sound extreme, but biologically, this pattern is not foreign to the human body. For millions of years, humans did not eat constantly. We ate when food was available and fasted when it was not. As a result, the human body evolved to function efficiently, with long gaps between meals. OMAD does not introduce something new. It restores an old biological rhythm in a modern world where food is always accessible. The core mechanism of OMAD is not the number of meals, but the hormone insulin. Every time you eat, insulin is released to manage glucose and signal energy storage. When you eat frequently throughout the day, insulin remains elevated, keeping the body locked in fat storage mode. In that state, fat burning is essentially blocked. OMAD changes this cycle. With only 1 meal per day, insulin spikes once and then drops, staying low for many hours. This prolonged low insulin window is critical. It allows the body to shift from storage mode into fat-burning mode. Around 12 to 16 hours after the last meal, glycogen, the liver's short-term glucose reserve, begins to deplete. At this point, the body must choose between waiting for food or using stored energy. With OMAD, since no additional meals arrive, the body turns to fat breakdown and converts fat into ketones, a stable fuel source for the brain and muscles. This explains why many people practicing OMAD don't feel weaker. Instead, they often report clearer thinking and more stable energy throughout the day. Ketones provide consistent fuel without the sharp spikes and crashes associated with glucose. Most importantly, OMAD does not force the body into panic starvation. It simply gives the body enough uninterrupted time to activate mechanisms it has always possessed: fat burning, energy stabilization, and metabolic efficiency. And this is only the first stage of the deeper biological changes OMAD initiates. After understanding what OMAD is, the first question most people ask is, how will my body feel at the beginning? And the honest answer is, uncomfortable, but not dangerous. In the early hours of OMAD, the most common sensation is not extreme hunger, but habit-based hunger. When your usual breakfast, lunch, or snack time arrives, your body sends signals. Your stomach feels slightly tight. Your mood may become irritable. You start thinking about food more often, even though you're not truly low on energy. The key thing to understand is this. This is not energy deficiency. It is a nervous system habit. The human body is excellent at learning schedules. If you've eaten breakfast at 7 a.m. for years, Your brain remembers. At that time, it releases ghrelin, the hunger hormone, like a biological alarm clock. Ghrelin doesn't check whether you actually need fuel. It simply asks, is it time to eat? When you switch to OMAD, ghrelin still follows the old schedule. Hunger appears not because your body is running out of energy, but because your brain is reacting to a broken routine. In other words, you're not hungry because you need food. You're hungry because you used to eat at that hour. One of the most reassuring discoveries for beginners is that hunger does not last continuously. Research shows hunger comes in waves, usually lasting 10 to 20 minutes. If you don't immediately eat, the wave passes. As ghrelin drops, the sensation fades. Many people are surprised by this. They expect hunger to grow endlessly if they don't eat. But the opposite happens. Hunger rises, peaks, and then falls like a wave. After it passes, energy often feels stable again. This understanding is crucial psychologically. It helps people realize they are not trapped in permanent hunger. The body is not panicking. It's recalibrating its internal clock. Each time you don't respond to habit-based hunger, your nervous system learns something new. No emergency. No need to sound the alarm. That realization builds trust. When hunger is no longer frightening, OMAD stops feeling like a harsh challenge and starts becoming an observation process. And once fear fades, deeper biological changes finally have room to begin. Once the early habit-based hunger fades, the body enters a more important biological phase. To understand why OMAD makes fat burning possible, we need to focus on one central hormone, insulin. Think of insulin as a warehouse manager. Every time you eat, especially carbohydrates or sugar, insulin shows up and says, "New energy has arrived. Put it into storage." That storage may be the liver, muscles, or if those are full, body fat. Insulin itself is not harmful. It's essential for survival. The real issue is how frequently insulin is activated. In modern eating patterns, people eat multiple meals, snacks, sweet drinks, and flavored coffees throughout the day. Each eating event triggers insulin. As a result, insulin stays elevated most of the time, rarely getting a break. And as long as insulin remains high, the body cannot switch into fat-burning mode. Biologically, the body operates in one of two primary states, either storage mode or burn mode. High insulin locks the body into storage mode. Only when insulin drops low and stays low long enough can the body transition into burn mode. This explains why frequent eating makes fat loss difficult, even when calorie intake isn't excessive. The body isn't incapable of burning fat, it simply isn't allowed to under constant insulin signaling. OMAD changes this dynamic. With one meal a day, insulin rises once to process the meal. Then, because no additional food arrives, insulin falls and remains low for many hours. This prolonged low insulin period creates the biological conditions necessary for fat-burning pathways to activate. At this point, mechanisms that were previously blocked can finally function. The body isn't forced or stressed. It's simply placed back into an environment it recognizes, one where stored fat becomes a usable fuel source when glucose is no longer constantly available. OMAD doesn't make the body struggle to burn fat. It removes the barrier that was preventing it. When insulin steps back, the energy system reorganizes itself, allowing the body to operate in a steadier, more efficient fuel state than constant eating ever permits. When insulin remains low for long enough and no additional food enters the system, a clear biological question arises. If glucose runs out, where does energy come from? The answer lies in how the body prioritizes fuel over time. Around 12 to 16 hours after the last meal, glycogen, the liver's short-term glucose reserve, begins to deplete. Glycogen is like an emergency snack drawer, quick and convenient, but very limited. Once it runs low, the body must switch strategies to maintain stable function. That strategy is fat burning. At this point, stored fat is broken down into smaller molecules, most importantly, ketones. Ketones are produced when the liver converts fat into an alternative fuel source. Simply put, ketones are a clean fuel for the brain and muscles when glucose is no longer abundant. Compared to glucose, ketones provide steadier energy with less biological noise. Glucose often causes rapid spikes and crashes, leading to brief bursts of energy, followed by fatigue. Ketones, on the other hand, deliver a smooth and consistent energy supply without dramatic fluctuations. That's why people often describe this phase in surprisingly similar ways, even without prior knowledge. One of the most common experiences is clearer thinking. Not a short-lived buzz, but a stable sense of mental clarity. Thoughts feel more organized, and distractions from sudden hunger or drowsiness become less frequent. The brain consumes a large amount of energy, and when fueled by ketones, it operates in a more stable metabolic environment. At the same time, cravings tend to decrease. This isn't a matter of willpower, but of fuel availability. When the brain senses a reliable energy source, it stops sending urgent signals to eat. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, gradually reduces its intensity as the body adapts. Many people also notice more emotional stability, less irritability, fewer mood swings tied to meals. This directly relates to steadier energy levels. When the brain no longer experiences frequent glucose drops, the nervous system remains calmer and more balanced. It's important to understand that this is not a state of deprivation. It's an alternative operating mode that the human body has relied on throughout evolutionary history. OMAD doesn't force ketone production, it allows time for it to emerge naturally. When glucose is no longer the default fuel, fat, the body's largest and most stable energy reserve, takes priority. And when this transition happens smoothly, many people realize something fundamental. Energy no longer depends on eating every few hours. When OMAD is maintained long enough for adaptation to occur, the changes go far beyond weight loss. The most meaningful shifts happen at the system level: how the body manages energy, responds to food, and handles periods without eating. First, blood sugar becomes more stable. Without constant grazing throughout the day, glucose levels no longer spike and crash repeatedly. Instead, they follow a clearer rhythm, rising after the meal, then gradually settling into a steady range. This stability reduces stress on the brain and nervous system, which no longer need to constantly compensate for small energy fluctuations. At the same time, satiety hormones begin to function more effectively. GLP-1 and CCK, the hormones that signal fullness, are strongly activated by a single, complete meal rich in protein and fiber. Rather than diluted signals from frequent small meals, OMAD provides a clear endpoint. The brain receives a decisive message: enough, and unnecessary snacking naturally fades. More importantly, the body relearns how to respond to not eating. Previously, skipping a meal could trigger fatigue, irritability, or anxiety, as if food absence were an emergency. With consistent OMAD practice, the body realizes that extended fasting is not a crisis. It learns to stay calm, rely on stored energy, and wait. This leads to a crucial capability known as metabolic flexibility, the ability to smoothly switch between burning glucose when food is available and burning fat when it is not. A metabolically flexible body does not depend on constant feeding to maintain energy. It adapts instead of panicking. This flexibility is the true long-term value of OMAD. Not rapid weight loss, but retraining the energy system. When the body trusts that fat can be used efficiently, anxiety around food diminishes. You stop constantly thinking about the next meal because the body has proven it can manage. Seen this way, OMAD is not a weight loss trick. It is biological training, a method of teaching the body that energy does not only come from frequent eating, but from adaptability, fuel switching, and intelligent use of reserves. And once the body relearns this, many people notice a deeper shift. Their relationship with food becomes calmer, less fear-driven, and far less controlled by misleading biological signals that once dictated their behavior. OMAD only works when practiced correctly. When misunderstood, it can easily turn into extreme restriction, leading to fatigue, low energy, and negative outcomes. The key is not eating less, but eating well and creating a sustainable biological rhythm. The first core principle is not undereating. An OMAD meal is not a symbolic meal. It must provide enough energy for the entire day. When calorie intake is too low, the body responds by slowing metabolism, leaving you cold, tired, and unfocused. OMAD is not starvation, it is energy compression into a clear time window. The second principle is nutrient quality. A proper OMAD meal includes sufficient protein to protect muscle and promote satiety, enough fiber to support digestion and blood sugar control, and adequate micronutrients from whole foods. If the meal is built around refined carbohydrates or ultra-processed foods, the body lacks the raw materials needed for recovery, regardless of fasting duration. OMAD should also not be adopted abruptly. A safer approach is progressive adaptation. Start with a 16 to 8 schedule, eating within 8 hours and fasting for 16. Once energy stabilizes, move to 18 to 6 or 20 to 4. Only when you feel mentally clear, physically steady, and less preoccupied with food does OMAD become an appropriate next step. Another crucial factor is social flexibility. OMAD should not isolate you from daily life. You do not need to eat at the same time every day. Some days dinner works best. Other days lunch fits better, depending on work and social commitments. This is where the idea of social OMAD comes in, maintaining metabolic benefits without sacrificing human connection. Shifting meal timing does not eliminate the benefits. The body responds to overall fasting duration and repeated patterns, not rigid schedules. As long as fasting windows remain long and meals are nutrient-dense, metabolic flexibility is preserved. Finally, the most important rule is listening to your body. OMAD is not suitable for everyone. If after adaptation you still experience persistent exhaustion, sleep disturbances, or cognitive decline, it's a signal to adjust or stop. A healthy method makes you feel better, not better at suffering. When practiced with understanding and respect for individual biology, OMAD becomes a powerful tool, not to punish the body, but to teach it how to operate more intelligently. OMAD, at its core, is not a diet to chase, but a lens through which we can re-examine how the human body truly works. Throughout this journey, the most important takeaway is not whether you should eat one meal a day, but the realization that your body is far more resilient and intelligent than you were led to believe. It does not collapse simply because you skip a meal. It does not panic because you stop eating on a fixed social schedule. Most early discomfort comes from habit and conditioning, not from real energy deficiency. OMAD is not a miracle solution. It does not transform everyone overnight. What it does offer is something far more valuable: biological breathing room. This pause allows insulin to fall, shifts the body out of constant storage mode, and gives fat-burning pathways the opportunity to activate. When that happens, weight loss is only one side effect. More importantly, the body relearns how to use energy efficiently, stabilize blood sugar, and reduce its emotional dependence on frequent eating. It's also essential to understand that OMAD is not for everyone, and it does not need to be rigid. For many people, a simple 16 to 8 or 18 to 6 eating window already delivers meaningful benefits. For others, OMAD may work temporarily and then evolve into a more flexible pattern that fits real life, work demands, and social connections. Understanding your body does not mean forcing it into one strict formula. It means knowing when to experiment, when to pause, and when to adapt. If there is one idea worth holding on to, it is this. Hunger is not the enemy, and eating constantly is not the same as caring for your health. The body thrives on rhythm. It needs periods of intake, but it also needs periods of rest to repair, recalibrate, and restore balance. OMAD is simply a tool to help you observe and rebuild that rhythm. Nothing more, nothing less. The final advice is to move slowly, prioritize safety, and listen carefully to real signals from your body. Do not turn OMAD into a test of willpower or punishment. Treat it as a conscious experiment, a way to learn how your body responds when given space instead of pressure. If this video helped you understand your body a little more clearly, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and joining us for future content where science is used to empower, not intimidate.